let's talk a little bit more now about the actual technology. So we've talked a lot about data. Can we go into maybe a little bit more detail around the role of technology in this process? I mean, as you alluded to before, some people have kind of suggested that sometimes technology has been the problem, and there's never been, an underinvestment, in financial services where technology is concerned, as IBM would know very well. Yes. So can we maybe talk a little bit more about, how you apply the technology in the right way?
Sure. So I think that, again, you need to assess that at different levels. So let's talk about it from a systemic regulator's point of view. So, of course, collecting this data, it's a huge amount of data. But nevertheless, the speed of the current supercomputers and the known roadmap to the next generation of supercomputers that we are building make us very, very confident that we can handle all the data in the market on an intraday basis, maybe even on a live basis. Now, that's predicated on technology development and innovation, and that also means other technology developments such as storage technology allow you to do much more of this than you could in the past. So at the systemic level, that's really the picture. It's about supercomputing. We use supercomputing for many other modeling aspects, nuclear stockpiles, various other things around defense and security and all the rest of it. So this is something that's been done, not done before for this industry, but there are similarly sized data problems that have been tackled. So we're very confident going forward that technology allows you to do much more than people would have imagined. At the firm level, then you look at this similarly, but of course not necessarily in the supercomputing way. But this is all about new technologies that allow you to look at your counterparties holistically, every single instance of your counterparties. So say, for example, General Motors files for bankruptcy. Do you as a bank know exactly what your exposure is to General Motors? You could measure probably traditionally your typical credit exposure, you could probably measure your counterparty exposure, you could measure your product exposure because you own their bonds or what have you, but can you measure IBM's exposure to General Motors, for example? So how does that impact your exposure to IBM? Can you measure all the subsidiaries in the General Motors group? How does that roll up as a firm? So these new technologies that allow you to do smart analytics, that allow you to do streaming of data, that allow you to make much better informed judgment, need to be applied. So you're absolutely right, this industry's always bought best of breed technology. It's by and large done a great job in using technology. In the trading world, we're at virtually zero latency, but as I mentioned before, we have a data problem, and that is now where technology can really help here. So there are some things that are evolving technologies, there are some that are currently available today, there are things we have launched in the last 6 months or so ago that came out of research where we'd built a very specific technology for a very large complex system that can be applied to this marketplace. So this is now about, IBM bringing all its attributes to bear. So this is not about just a box that runs quicker than anyone else. It's about us knowing where technology is going and how you would apply that. And of course, that's not to say that it's an answer to everything. It remains complex. You still have to understand the business use of that technology. But I think you'll see things that become commoditized in a couple of years that 2 years ago were still in research. Look at things we use today. Look at the memory in an iPod, for example, versus your laptop computer 5-10 years ago. So the advancement here will allow us to do much more. So when the likes of the BIS and the IMF and the Bank of England and everybody else have written large academic papers about how to track and measure systemic risk, truth is you can do that now, whereas 5 years ago you couldn't, or not easily. So today we're in a position where we have the choice to do that build out of a system. And of course it's not going to be a cheap way, but we've lost a lot of money in the industry. So we're trying to say there's a forward-looking view here, both on the regulatory side, so let's not just put in a knee-jerk bunch of regulations that solve yesterday's problem. Let's look at this forward-looking. And let's understand what technology can do for you, because we should be designing that system for future-based technology, not yesterday's technology.
Great, Keith, thanks very much. I think
Thank you.
that's all we have time for. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you.